All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Let me see. Make sure this is broadcasting to YouTube. I set this for 6:30, and then I changed it to 6:45. But it's Monday. I want to get on and get off and not start too late. Sometimes I end up talking for an hour, even when I only plan to go for about 45 minutes. So, okay. So I am live. I am on YouTube. Yep. I see two folks are watching me. Let me make sure there's me. Oh my. Let me make sure. Hold on a second, everyone. Let me make sure I'm getting my AdSense. Hold on. Oh my goodness. What was I thinking? Yeah, the monetization is on. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Hey, let's see who's here. So Black Nerd Talks. Thank you for being here. Black Nerd Talks. I did switch the time. And so hopefully folks roll in. I know the master teacher, he's talking right now. Oh, I got some more folks coming over. Snowman, thank you for being here. It's snowing in the summertime. Hold on, everybody. I have my antenna thing here. Hold on. All right. Everybody, please smash that like button. Black Nerd Talks, thank you for your comment. You left this comment before the stream even started. That means you were looking for this. And thank you to everyone who has liked the stream before it started. So I appreciate that. Those help out a great deal. So Snowman says, hey. He says, I got some WNBA chatter at the top of the hour. Snowman says, wait, top of next hour. Very little. He says, good afternoon, Dr. Dunbar. This PC version of the Manosphere will never work. Yeah, we're going to get into that. I left Dr. T.S. Johnson's live streams below in the description box. I just finished watching part 1. I was one of the people who sent this to him because when I saw Richard Reeves up there on the stage, I said, Dr. T.S. Johnson would want to see this. And of course, Dr. T.S. Johnson had a gander of it. So I'm going to give my insights. I'm from the biological sciences, so there's no way I could do this the justice that Dr. T.S. Johnson gave it. But there were some things that I noticed and some things that I saw that I thought that were worth capturing. And I noticed something before I booted the stream up about the speakers and about where that talk was taking place. Okay. And I don't think Dr. Johnson went into that, but I think for context, it's important to have an idea of who those people were and where they were talking, who they were and where they were talking. Me and Officer Charles Faulkner, we were smoking some stogies on Saturday night, and we actually talked about one of the panelists. So I am going to get started. Snowman, let's see. He says, what's Snowman up to here? Can I post my link here before you sign off? I don't have mod abilities on this channel, so I'm asking permission. Hold on, Snowman. Let me give you mod abilities. Yeah, that's cool. And Snowman, yeah, we got to link up before the summer's over. I have another sports buddy. I think it would be fun if the three of us got together and talked some sports, and then maybe we could, maybe me and you could do something before the summer's up, just on the WNBA and sports in general. Let me make sure you're modded up. Wow, Aquatechi's not modded up either, so I'm going to give Snowman a wrench. All right, Snowman, I'll make you a managing moderator. Aquatechi, I'll make you a managing moderator as well. Very little. I want to see other folks grow. And then I want to reward the folks who are supporting me regularly. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, Snowman, you have a wrench now. Yeah, I'm going to play my intro. I'm going to jump in. If anyone wants to throw something in the collection plate for this one, then my Cash App and PayPal are here. You can leave a super thanks if you're watching on the playback as well. All right. So with that, I'm going to play my intro. We're going to start with a little bit of Aaron Clarey, juxtaposed. Is that the right word? Juxtaposed. We're going to start with a little bit of Aaron Clarey under an image of that panel. I don't think the panelists would want this particular soundbite going under them because it kind of runs counter to what they talked about. But I think it's appropriate. It's appropriate for what was not discussed. And I think that that's one of my main takeaways from that whole thing was, okay, well, you talked about some things, but you know, you guys didn't talk about the other side, and you guys didn't talk about why boys and men are going to these negative, toxic spaces online. And when they said that, I was like, oh my God, are they talking about me too? I'm just a little guy. I don't know if I'm someone they're talking about. But anyway, I'm going to play my intro. I'll see you guys on the other side. And yeah, we'll talk about the panel at the Aspen Institute. The Aspen Institute. Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information.
And you kind of already see this. Women are only fractionally interested in sex as men. You know, many funny jokes from many years ago about, you know, jokes about husband, wife, or something like that. So we know women only have a fraction of the sex drive that men have. But what I'm starting to see, or what I saw with a lot of my data, not to mention my own dating experiences, you always think it's bad luck. Like, what am I doing? What's wrong? What's it? And when you start to look back and compare notes, and you look at macro data, macro behavior data on a nationwide level, it becomes pretty clear to me that women, at least today, are nowhere near as interested in men as women were in the past. And a lot of that comes from polling data. You ask, well, what do you want in life? Men are 6th, and I think children are 7th. Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter came out with the rise of the she economy, where half the women are just under half are forecasted not to be married. You ask women, they prefer career, education, financial stability, religion, I think, or finding themselves or something like that over marriage and children. And a really kind of the many final nails in the coffin that kind of did for me was we now have a bevy of online dating data, which is always kind of a changing target because online dating has morphed and changed so much. But when you take all this data and you put it together, it's a pretty clear picture that women do not have that much interest in men as men do women. I'm not saying women don't like guys. I'm not saying women hate men. I'm not saying that. Women are only fractionally as interested in men. And what the catalyst has been, whereas I say,
because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. Okay, not everybody is privy to the same information. That very much applies here. So to those 4 panelists, Stephanie Rule, Governor Wes Moore, Richard Reeves, and Michael Strout-Manis. What I just played, if anyone's watching this, that is part of the equation. If you're going to talk about lonely men, boys struggling, lonely guys, you have to talk about that part of the equation as well. And I think that's one of my main takeaways from that discussion, listening to it. This is like algebra. This is like chemistry. There's this side of the equation, and then there's this side of the equation. If you change one side, it's going to impact the other side. And you can't just talk about one side without talking about the other. Okay. Everybody, welcome back to Big Discussions 76, my original channel. You guys know who I am. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. I am a biological scientist, but I'm also a curious individual, a blogger, a soon-to-be author, a very, very soon-to-be author, And yeah, so now on this channel, I try to cover current events, culture, society, but protecting myself as well. I mean, because I have a day job, I'm a federal employee. And what if I get lumped together with these negative voices online? Okay, so the basis for tonight's live stream is that panel at the, the event was called Aspen Ideas. That was a meeting. I'm going to talk about that before I give some reaction to that. But that's going to be the basis for that. So I'm going to start with, hey guys, I'm almost finished with my part 1 of my book. And I'm going to just do a shameless plug very, very briefly because it dovetails into this. So I was actually at the gym earlier shooting some baskets. I sit in front of a computer all day shooting baskets as a total body workout. So I was pretty worn out after about 10 to 15 minutes of shooting. I still got the touch, but your body does get tired if it's not used to shooting baskets. So guys, so this is a basketball story, but you know, when I went back and revised the preface and the prologue and the epilogue, I realized this is very much a story about boys and men, okay, which is the center of all the controversy. It's a story about not having enough men around. And it's a story about what's passed on to you when there are men there, and all the things, a lot of things that you have to figure out when there aren't men there. In this instance, the arena is the great game of basketball, but there are so many other arenas in life. And yeah, that's a major part of what this is about. And I've cited Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's book in my preface. I've cited a lot of other things in my preface. So I'm almost done with this. Look out for it very soon. It's been a lot of work, but I'll be happy to click live on Amazon when that is finished. Okay. Having to figure things out on our own as boys and men. And you guys keep letting me know what you think there in the description, in the chat. Okay, so what drew me to this? Well, the YouTube algorithm, it gives you things, okay? And I watch a lot of things. I've watched the Black Manosphere content. I guess I'd be considered adjacent to it. The master teacher called me adjacent at this point. But I watch a lot of other things. The Chris Williamson podcast, Tom Billy U, the Words and Numbers podcast, Valuetainment with Patrick Bet David. And it showed me this particular video that's the subject of this. And it was called, let me pull the link up really quickly. Come on, Microsoft Word. All right, copy hyperlink. Do you guys like the Marvin Gaye beanie? I'm rocking the Marvin Gaye beanie tonight, and the white tee. So it was this video, and this video is below in the description box. I'm certain all of you have seen it. If you watched Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's live streams on this, you've seen this as well. This is entitled "How to Curb Male Loneliness and Help Boys Find Purpose." Okay, that right there is Governor Wes Moore. I'm going to talk about him some more shortly. He was one of the panelists. So that title, it immediately grabs you. And then I saw, oh, Richard Reeves is a part of this. He's been the face. Well, if you talk to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, he's been part of the face of trying to address the issues of boys and men, though Dr. Johnson would make the case that he's a little too apologetic about it and a little too politically correct. So I saw that Richard Reeves, and he wrote a book called Of Boys and Men, and he's done several videos as well. I saw that Richard Reeves was a part of that discussion. I saw that another gentleman named Michael Stroutmanis, he was a part of that panel, and that was hosted by Stephanie Rule from MSNBC. Okay, so that right there, the fact that Mrs. Rule, though I think she kept her maiden name. I did a brief lookup of all these people. The fact that she works at MSNBC, that would give you some indicator of the tone and the context of that talk. So before I get into my thoughts on it, because I just have a few, I can't do this justice the way Dr. T.S. Johnson did it. But where was this taking place, and who were the people on the panel? I think this, when I looked this up before starting the stream, I said, okay, this is a good teaching moment for all of us. Please smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I was at 1,988. I'm 12 away from 2,000. If you want to make a donation, my information is there. Okay, so where did this thing take place? Because you guys need to know this as you're looking at that. I don't think Dr. Johnson went into detail about this, and this is important for context. This thing, that particular meeting was held at a place called the Aspen Institute. Aspen, so that's out in Colorado. Okay, the Aspen Institute. Are any of you in the chat familiar with the Aspen Institute? I'll wait a few seconds. I won't wait too long, but this is very, very important. Has anyone heard? I know folks have heard of Aspen due to skiing in the winter, but has anyone heard of the Aspen Institute? I know about this. I just happen to know about this through, well, I'll just say 6 degrees of separation. Okay, for the sake of time, the Aspen Institute. Well, let's read about what the Aspen Institute is. This is important for background and context. Okay, about the Aspen Institute. Okay. The Aspen Institute is a global nonprofit organization, so we're in the nonprofit sector here, committed to realizing a free, just, and equitable society. We ignite human potential to build understanding and create new possibilities for a better world. I'm going to read that again. The Aspen Institute is a global nonprofit organization committed to realizing a free, just, and equitable society. We ignite human potential to build understanding and create new possibilities for a better world. So this is a bit of a think tank. Okay, it's a think tank. Much like whenever you hear institute, you want to think about a think tank, like the Hoover Institute. The Hoover Institute, that's where Thomas Sowell hails out of. That's a conservative think tank. Okay, the Aspen Institute, that's more of a liberal, progressive think tank. Okay, so many of the ideas coming out of there are going to be a little bit more liberal, a little bit more progressive, and they will conflict with ideas from other places. That's the Aspen Institute. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'll be right back. All right, got to get the fan going a little bit here. So, authors, writers, speakers, thinkers, policymakers. These are people who are going to go into people who are coming from your universities, like Dr. T.S. Johnson, but in a different context. These are people who are coming here to Washington to work in presidential cabinets, people writing policies and drafting policies, or maybe people influencing the people who are writing and drafting policies. So that's what that is. So what is Aspen Ideas? Let's take a look at that. And if they're shaping policies, it's significant that they would entertain certain ideas and discard other ideas, or call other ideas toxic. About Aspen Ideas. When people and ideas meet in the right atmosphere, something magical happens. At Aspen Ideas, we cultivate that magic. All right. Who we are at Aspen Ideas, we are very much of the belief that ideas should not exist in isolation, even if such a thing were possible. We've devoted 2 decades to gathering the most incisive, paradigm shifting bits of insight and having them presented by the most active, engaged thinkers in the world. Okay? We found that when great ideas come together and when great minds come together to receive them, they become something grander. Ideas become more than possibilities or promises or mere changes in perspective in the minds and lives of our participants. They become a new vision for the world as it could be. Okay? So I want you all to think about that. Think about these statements as you think about the talk and what was said on that panel and why they were embracing of certain things while kind of demonizing other things. This is more of a progressive, liberal type of enclave. Okay, so who were the people on the panel? Who were the people on the panel? Let me go. I had it. Give me a second here. Because you guys need to know who these people are. Okay. And I guess once I become a published author, I'll be looking to do the circuit, but I'm not gonna, but I'm going to, talk about what's going on to the extent that I can. So Festival of Speakers. Okay. So the host was this lady here, Stephanie Rule, anchor, the 11th hour with Stephanie Rule on MSNBC. So once again, MSNBC, you're talking Rachel Maddow, you're talking Joyanne Reed. I think Simone Sanders is over there. That's a liberal network. Okay, so that was the host, Stephanie Rule. Okay, so let's go to M. One of the panel. Oh, Bill Maher was there at that meeting. So one of the panelists was Wes Moore. I don't think Dr. Johnson was familiar with Wes Moore. Ray Alexander is familiar with him. The rest of you, are you familiar with Wes Moore? The rest of you, are you familiar with Wes Moore? If you watch, you should be. If you watch that discussion, Stephanie Rule blurted out, future president. Okay, so this could be our president after whoever wins this contest in November. Me and Charles were talking about Wes Moore at the Cigar Lounge on Saturday night. One of the good things about him, he's military. So he would make a good commander in chief in that regard. But for something like this, when you look at Wes Moore, doesn't he kind of give off a bit of an Obama-esque aura? Clean cut, speaks really well, very suave, very charismatic. So you would want Wes Moore on a panel like this, talking about this. Okay, I'm going to read his bio really quickly. Wes Moore is the 63rd governor of Maryland. He is the first Black governor in the state's 246-year history, and the third African-American elected governor in the history of the United States. Prior to this, Moore was CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation anti-poverty organization. Previously, he was the founder and CEO of Bridge EDU, reinventing freshman year of college for underserved students to increase their likelihood of long-term success. An Army combat veteran, he also founded Amari Productions and produced the series Coming Back with Wes Moore in the documentary All the Difference for PBS. Early in his career, Moore worked in finance with Deutsche Bank and Citigroup, the author of The Other Wes Moore and the work His latest is 5 days. Okay, that's Wes Moore. If you guys don't know who this is, you all should know who this is. This may be one of our future presidents, and he probably will be. Reynolds says he appeared on my radar with the freight ship hit when the freight ship hit the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Okay, right. Okay, so who were the other panelists? That was Wes Moore. That was the host, Stephanie Rule, and that's Wes Moore. So let's go to one of Dr. T.S. Johnson's other favorite writers. Where is he? Richard Reeves. Richard Reeves, stand up. Okay, I'm not going to read his entire bio. You guys can Google Richard Reeves. You guys probably know a ton about him right now, but Richard Reeves, I'll read the first couple of sentences. Richard Reeves is the president of the American Institute for Boys and Men, which he founded in 2023 to raise awareness about boys and men's challenges to develop solutions. Okay, he was previously a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, where he focused on economic inequality, racial justice, social mobility, and boys and men. Okay, one of Dr. Johnson's criticisms of Mr. Reeves is that he's way too apologetic about advocating for boys and men, and yeah, he's too apologetic about it. He's too politically correct. He's too, yeah. Okay. Now the third panelist was this gentleman. I'd never heard of this gentleman before. Before I go to that, I want you to take a look at the other participants in the conference. This gives you a feel for who was at the conference and what this Aspen Ideas Conference was about. Okay. I don't know who a lot of these people are, but again, these are thought leaders, progressive liberal thought leaders. A-Rod was there. Okay. Looks like a mixture of men and women there. The third speaker was this gentleman here. I had never heard of him before. Michael Stroutmanis. He was an Obama Valerie Jarrett guy. Okay, I'm going to read just a couple sentences here. Michael Stroutmanis is Executive Vice President for External Affairs at the Obama Foundation. There he works to develop the Obama Presidential Center and through economic renewal on the south side of Chicago, the city's next generation of leaders. Okay, here we go. Stroutmanis also leads My Brother's Keeper Alliance, creating safe, healthy, and nurturing communities for boys and young men of color across the nation. You guys can look all this up yourself, but I thought it would be important to provide some context for that talk, and I'm at 30 minutes. Okay, those are the panelists. That's where they were speaking. That's the context of the environment where they were speaking. And so, again, that was a bit of a liberal, progressive think tank / enclave. All right. Barry Little says Wes Moore equals Obama 2.0. My brother's keeper denied again. Barry Little says, and Dr. Johnson is correct about Reeves. Paul Wilson says, does Wes Moore meet the ADOS FBA standard, or is he a GMO bro like number 44? I don't know enough about Wes Moore. I know that he was military, but I don't know. Well, he's probably in the, the CBC side. He's probably going to be in that galaxy. Okay. Paul Wilson says, ask at BGS about Steve Coakley. He might have been able to provide information on the Aspen Institute. Detractors might have also considered Brother Coakley as a conspiracy theorist. Okay. All right. So the meeting, it was called How to Curb Male Loneliness and Help Boys Find Purpose. Okay, I was surprised to see it, but I was glad to see that it was out on the stage, concern for boys and men. That's something I'm concerned about. That's something Dr. Chiasan Johnson, that's his life's work. And Reginald Lewis in his biography, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? There's some language from him in there from the late 1980s before he died, stating that he was concerned about young Black boys. Okay, so I was happy to see that, okay, this is on the big stage. Okay, they're talking about issues with boys and men. The title was kind of curious in terms of loneliness, because one of the questions you see when you look at that is, okay, well, the men they're talking about, the boys they're talking about, are they lonely? Are they lonely, or are they content? Okay. And naming the video that addressing male loneliness, is that a bit disingenuous? Okay. Are men lonely today? The men who have gone their own way, the men who are by themselves, are they happy with that? Are they cool with that? Or are they actually lonely? Okay. I heard a lot of good things in that talk. Wes Moore said some very good things about boys having to figure things out on their own in a lot of communities. I thought that was important. I think boys struggling in school, I thought that was good. There was a line that Richard Reeves stated that really, really grabbed me. And that was, we have to teach boys how to learn to give more than they get. Okay. To give more than they get. I'm going to say that one more time. We have to teach boys how to give more than they get. Okay. That stood out to me because I'd heard that before. Okay. A buddy of mine, my boy Chuck, from my graduating high school class. As a matter of fact, this is our 30th reunion this weekend. But when my friend Chucky, who we've lost contact with him, he got married right around 2008. Chuck got married up in Toronto, and I was videotaping with an old school video camera with the cassette tape. I asked his brother-in-law, because his brother-in-law Joel was his best man. I said, Joel looked happily married. He had a wife, 2 to 3 kids, and he looked happily married. Joel, he had an athletic build, kind of studious looking. He was married to Chucky's sister. And I said, Joel, what are the keys to getting married? What are the keys to staying married? Okay. And I think he gave me the standard spiel about, you got to communicate. Okay. But he also said, you have to learn to give more than you get. Okay. That always stood out to me. You have to learn how to give more than you get. Okay. So I said, all right. Now he did say something else, and I'm saying this humorously. He said that you also have to let them sink themselves, and I'll leave that there. Now, I don't know if Joel and his wife are still married, but at that time, that's the advice that he gave me. Professor Black Truth, Red Team, Blue Team, Cybersecurity for the People. He is here. He says, I hated that line. Give more. Okay. Yeah. So it's the line. And Dr. Johnson got to this towards the end of part 1 of his analysis. I won't give that away. He got a little fired up there. But when you hear that, give more than you get, one of the questions you kind of have to ask is, okay, well, what's the trade? What am I getting in return? That might not sound popular. Okay. I'm sure that doesn't sound popular, but I think relationships used to be a bit of a trade. Okay. So in the trade, Richard Reeves said this in a lot of his content, the trade used to be very defined. Okay. Is the trade between the genders, is it defined today? Okay. Is it the way that it was? Okay. So if you're giving and giving and giving, what's the trade-off? All right. Both parties should be getting something. And is the trade-off today worth giving more than you get? Okay. Dr. Johnson went into that on his live stream. That stood out to me. I made a lot of notes on the discussion. I'm not going to go over all of these. But what I will say is that what stood out to me was that at one point during the discussion, the conversation turned to boys and men going to online voices. Okay. And well, I knew they weren't talking about me because I'm a little fish, but you have to ask why. And this is one of the things that came out in Dr. Johnson's live stream, and one of the things he got fired up about. They did not really get into why. Okay. Boys and men were going to online spaces, what it was they were looking for specifically, and what they were hoping to find there. Okay. So if you just say they're going to these online toxic spaces and you don't know a whole lot about what's being talked about there, then it's kind of disingenuous. Okay. I mean, there are a lot of things being talked about in online spaces as it relates to boys and men. People want to focus on the quote unquote toxic stuff, but why are they going there? What are these boys and men experiencing that's causing them to go and congregate there? Okay. That's the other part of the equation. If you don't talk about that part of the equation, then you're just up there blowing smoke. Okay. And that's what you see. You see that a lot at festivals. You see that a lot at conferences. You see high profile speakers on stage talking and sounding very regal, in some instances, virtue signaling, in some instances, sounding very idealistic, giving nice slogans and speeches and quotes that sound good and that make everybody feel good, but they don't always go into the meat and potatoes of what's going on and what the actual problems are. Because if you go into what the actual problems are, then you are you're going to alienate some people. Okay, at that particular conference, that would have probably alienated some people, and you're going to make some people uncomfortable. Okay, so that stood out to me, that they didn't give the entire picture. As a scientist, I deal in equations. There's one side here, there's one side here. If something's affecting this side, it's going to impact this side. And if you're just talking about one side, then you're not being transparent, and you're not being completely transparent. Okay, so that stood out to me. And there are several online spaces. We know that. Now, I didn't listen to Andrew. I didn't really listen to Andrew Tate myself. Okay. The theory is that what happened to him was him being silenced. Okay. They didn't want whatever it was he was telling younger men. They didn't want that getting out. Okay. I'll say it. I might, get some smoke for it. But yeah, when he was alive, I did peep the late Kevin Samuel's show. I mean, there's a theory that he got taken out. Okay. for the things he was talking about. People didn't like what he was talking about. He caught a lot of flack for how he said things, but it was the principle of some of the things that he was saying that I think infuriated his critics. But those are just two content creators. There's the Black Manosphere. There's Dr. Warren Farrell. Well, if Jordan Peterson offends you, okay, Jordan Peterson offends some people. Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about these topics. There are so many. Aaron Clary, Rollo Tomasi, Dr. Richard Cooper. There's so many people talking about these things. Why is it a problem? Why is it a problem if a group of men or boys, they're not getting the answers they need out in the real world? If there aren't men in their lives, what's the problem with going online and seeking the answers elsewhere? Okay. Especially if the answers don't line up with what the prevalent narratives are on the outside. Okay. So that stood out to me, the demonizing of the online voices. Okay. And there are several online voices. Okay. Once again, the title was a little bit deceptive. Are men lonely? The men who are doing whatever they're doing, are they necessarily lonely? Okay. I would argue that many are not. Okay. Especially in today's climate. Many have found peace in being by themselves. Many have found peace in going their own way, quote unquote. And many don't find today's relationships fair and equitable, or many have determined that they don't have the potential to last or to stand the test of time. Okay. So and then the last thing I'll say, I have some links I want to show. I'm at 40 minutes. In terms of that panel, what are the consequences of not talking about the other side of what they were talking about? Okay. Because you have to ask, if men are going to listen to these things, and if they're going online, whoever they're listening to, what's sending them over there? What's the motivation for them going over there? If you're not talking about the why, okay, if you're not asking those men why they're going over there, if you're not asking those boys why they're going over there, then you're missing part of the boat. You're missing part of what's really going on. I do think the information about schools was valuable. I think it's well known that boys and girls learn differently, and our current school system does not serve boys well. Boys are not well suited to sitting most of the day. They have to be up, moving around, doing things, touching things, building things. So I do think that needs more focus. And also we do need more male teachers. Okay. We do need more males in education, being visible and being there for those young men. So one question you have to ask, and I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty quickly. I'm going to read some of your comments here. Reynolds says, let's see, Ray Alexander. Okay. Barry Little says, men have given more than they have gotten. That's what caused men to go their own way, away from the divorce lottery that never benefited them. It was never the panel's purpose to ask why, only to stereotype and demonize the online men's spaces they criticize. Professor Black Ops says, very little facts on the demonize. Paul Wilson says, Governor Westmore's late father, William Wesley Moore, was Ados. His mother, Joy Thomas, is an immigrant from Jamaica. He did mention that his mother is an immigrant. Reynolds says, correct that, very little. The child support court and divorce court odds of that happening are better than lottery odds of you losing. Let's see, less GMO than 44. Reynolds, both games are rigged. Ray Alexander says Westmore was a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. He is a graduate of Valley Forge Military Academy and Johns Hopkins University. He was a combat officer in Afghanistan, the rank of captain. I think he was a paratrooper. Yeah, certainly he may be the president one day. But for this type of topic, yeah, you would want someone like that up on stage talking about this topic. Barry Little says the consequences of the panel are that the voices they hope will be discredited will only be sought out more. And Paul Wilson says, pardon my paranoia, but you should consider yourself at least a person of interest. As a PhD in a STEM field, you are obviously a critical thinker. That's right. That's a part of it. I was going to say that I left under that video of that panel. I did say it. The comment is still there for all of the comments that those online voices, for all the criticism those online voices caused. They drove this conversation. Okay, they caused this conversation. Richard Reeves, Wes Moore, Michael Stropmanis, and Stephanie Rule, they would not have been up there talking if not for those online voices. That's important to note. Okay, so you can criticize them, but they caused you all to be there. Let's see. What? Okay, so these guys, I had these guys on my channel, Dr. Anthony Davies and James Harrigan. That came up in one of their podcasts, how boys are being treated coming up. So it's not just a basket of deplorables talking about this. People in universities and think tanks, other writers are talking about this as well. I just got to put that out there, because if you say it's online voices like Andrew Tate, that's not necessarily true. Okay, there are a lot of people talking about this. So why? We're going to end with this. Why? What's the concern for men going their own way? What's the concern for too many boys listening to online voices? You guys kind of let me know there in the chat. And I have some links here I'm going to show. What are the consequences? What are Wes Moore, Richard Reeves, Michael Stropmanis, the Aspen Institute? What's their long-term concern for this? You guys give me some answers there in the chat. Very Little, thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that. What are the long-term ramifications for something like this, for a critical mass of men checking out, not asking women on dates, going their own way? What are the long-term ramifications for the country? Okay. Black Nerd Talks, thank you. Thank you for being the first commenter here and for answering in this way. He says, there's no society, no infrastructure without men, which obviously then affects women, and we all don't want that. There you go. Okay, if on this channel, I've talked about population decline. I've talked about it over on my science channel. Okay, that's a part of it. Who's gonna build? Who's gonna build your bridges? Who's gonna maintain the infrastructure? Who's gonna build the buildings? Who's gonna fix everything? Okay, who's gonna work in law enforcement? Okay, if the men don't do it. Okay, and we are a sexual species. We are moving towards artificial womb technology, right? So, and I think the temporary fix right now is the immigration, but long term, this could have catastrophic effects. Okay, I talked about this book a while ago, Men Without Work by Nicholas Eberstadt from the American Enterprise Institute. I can never say it right. American Enterprise Institute or American Enterprising Institute? The American Enterprise Institute. Okay, so a lot of young men have checked out of the workforce. They don't care to work. They don't want to work. Okay, they don't see a need to work. Okay, and they speculate in this book, Mr. Eberstadt and his colleagues, that the men are at home on screens, on YouTube, or playing games, playing Call of Duty or playing Gran Turismo. But this is a concern. If you don't have any workers, if one of your genders is not working, then that has tremendous economic implications. Okay. The military. Who makes up the majority of the military? Okay, and some would say that we're kind of teetering on the verge of a third world mass conflict. Okay, so college. Okay, so college. Let's take a look at college really quickly. I looked this up briefly today. This is from Pew Research. Fewer young men are in college, especially at 4-year schools. Okay, so if men are falling out of the education system in K through 12, you're going to have fewer in college. You're going to have more women graduating with degrees. That's going to crater mating, or it's going to cause situations like, a small group of guys having their pick of the litter and actually having several what's the word I'm looking for? Several mates. And then you're going to have things like this website. Are we dating the same guy? Okay. So this is a problem. Fewer young men are in college, though more men now are going into the blue collar trades. Okay. So I think this is caveated. This should be caveated a little bit in saying that some young people are not going the college route anymore. Okay. So fewer young men are in college, especially 4-year schools. Okay. This graph shows that the share of young college students who are men has declined since 2011. Please smash that like button if you haven't. If you want to donate something to the channel, please feel free to do so. Okay, so yeah, this shows for 2- and 4-year schools, the percentage in 2011 was 47%. That's dropped to 44%. For 2-year schools, it was about the same from 2011 to 2022. And then if you combine those, it's 47% versus 42% for 4-year schools. Okay, so this is not necessarily a good thing, though it could be a symptom of the economy as well. This is showing multiple races, white people, Black people, and Hispanics. And for each of these, you're seeing that there were fewer men enrolled in college comparing 2011 to 2022 for all 18 and 24-year-olds, whites, okay, Blacks, and Hispanics. Okay. So this can cause a huge problem. Okay. I will leave this link here in case any of you want a copy of it. Okay, I'm going to close that. The military. Okay, who makes up the majority of our military? And this is significant because with us being the world reserve currency for now, part of the keys to us having or being the world reserve currency is a military. That's part of why the military matters. And it also matters if Russia tries to pull up, or if China tries to pull up, or if a massive world conflict jumps off. but who makes up the majority of our military? Okay, I looked this up earlier. This is from the U.S. Army. This reads, the total number of soldiers let me start over. The total number of soldiers in the active component is 463,083. Males account for 84.3%, and females account for 15.7% of the military, or at least of the Army. I'm going to read that again. The total number of soldiers in the active component is 463,083. Males account for 84.3%, and females account for 15.7% of the total. Okay, so men make up the majority of our standing military. Okay, at least the Army. Now, I did see links saying that the amount of the percentage of women in the military is increasing, but I think men will still make up the majority of the military going forward. So if you have men checking out, if you have young boys checking out, giving up hope, all right, and at home playing Gran Turismo or Call of Duty or whatever, then, and I think we're already seeing fewer enrollees in the military. I looked that up earlier as well. Okay. I'm just going to read some of these. Okay, this is a link talking about why younger people are not going in the military today. This would be mostly boys, mostly young men. Okay. Top 10 reasons selected by surveyed youth when asked, what would be the main reasons why you would not join the U.S. military? Possibility of physical injury / death. That was the major reason. Possibility of PTSD or other psychological issues. 65%. Leaving family and friends. 58%. Other career interests. 46%. Dislike of the military lifestyle. 40%. Too long a commitment. 36%. Possibility of interference with college education. 35%. Required to live in places I don't want to live. 35%. I don't believe I would qualify. 33%. Possible of sexual harassment / assault. 33%. So were any of these things a concern back in the day, years ago? Too long a commitment. Required to live in places I don't want to live. Leaving family and friends. Were any of these things significant concerns years ago? And how many of these things are taught by fully developed male figures? Strength, toughness, commitment, learning how to struggle, learning how to grind, learning how to strive. How many of these reasons are taught by competent, strong male figures? Okay. And this is getting to the larger societal ramifications for that panel. Why were they concerned? Okay. I have two more that I'm going to show here. And this gets back to giving more than you get. Barry Little says, one thing not covered by that chart is economics. Why fight for a country where your employment is marginalized and where you can't afford to start a family? These are all things that also could have been discussed on that panel. Okay, but nonetheless, if large swaths of young men start checking out, that has tremendous ramifications for everybody. Okay, this I'm going to skip to this one. This is another part of the equation, okay, that should have been discussed on that stage for what's going on. And this is a culture, well, yeah, it's a bit of a culture shift. This is from Psychology Today. And I think Richard Reeves, they all need to give this some thought as well. This is from Psychology Today. This is from 2021. Why so many single women without children are happy. Okay, for starters, stronger social lives outside of marriage. I'm going to skip to this paragraph down here. Okay, single women without children are happy and healthy. Okay, according to happiness expert Paul Dolan, a professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics, women who are single with no children are the happiest. Dolan explains, says that while men derive benefits from marriage, the same cannot generally be said for women. Okay, I'm going to read this paragraph as well. Dolan explains that men benefit from tying the knot because they calm down, they become less inclined to take risks, earn more money, and live longer. But the same results do not benefit married women. In fact, Dolan notes that married men tend to be healthier due to less risk taking, but marriage apparently does not impact women's health, except to the extent that middle-aged married women have an elevated risk of both mental and physical conditions as compared with their single counterparts. Dolan concludes that the healthiest and happiest population subgroup are women who never married or had children. Okay, I'm not saying that this is 100% true, because I think we're seeing evidence to the contrary on platforms like TikTok. I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok, but I see some of the posts that are coming out of there. So this was written in 2021, but I think sentiments have shifted to some degree since then. But it's the changed environment. It's the changed environment. So this is something Reeves and the other guys need to talk about in terms of, this is the other part of the equation. Okay, does the other gender want to, what do they want? I'll just say that. What do they want? What do they want? What does the other gender want? What would make them happy? And how does that reconcile with the lonely men and why they're seeking whatever they're seeking here in cyberspace? I have one more, and I don't think I'm going to read this one verbatim, but this one was published in 2023. This one is entitled, this is from Distractify. This came up in Google. It says, unmarried women with no kids are happier than anyone else, according to study. Okay. I'm just showing this to say that Aspen Ideas panel with Richard Reeves on it and Wes Moore and Michael Strotmanis, it was unbalanced. Okay. And if you're going to host a panel like that, voicing concerns over males being lonely and males going to online spaces for quote unquote answers, you need to get a feel for what they're talking about there and why they're talking about it, and not just say that they're retreating to spaces online. They're retreating to toxic spaces online. What's the why? What are the reasons? Okay, what are the reasons they're falling behind in school? Okay, and why are we on population decline? Okay, so there we are. Those are the things that I wanted to say. I'm sure you all have seen it, but for those of you who haven't, Dr. Johnson, he did a part 1 and part 2 on this. Got a little fired up, but he's a social scientist. He's a professor of Africana studies. So he's able to go a little bit deeper into this than me, but these are things that stood out to this from my perspective, and I think that overlaps with some of what he said as well. I'm going to read some comments here before I wrap up. Please smash that like button if you haven't. And I think it's, again, I'm going to take it back to the opening, which was where was the panel held, and why is it significant that it was held at the Aspen Institute, or that the Aspen Institute hosted that? Because these are policymakers. These are the nonprofit people. These are people who are coming here to Washington to influence policy. Okay, so policies may be shaped based upon incomplete information. All right, and they don't necessarily want to know if it falls outside of their zeitgeist, of their ethos, then they may not even care. They probably don't even care about the what and the why. Okay. Salchi, thank you for pulling up. He says, less obligations provided by comfortable environments created by men. Yeah, so that's the other thing, is if men check out. And Aaron Cleary, by the way, he did write a book called A World Without Men. Okay, he did write that book. I'd like to read that book. If you have a critical mass of men who won't work, who won't protect, who won't build, that's going to cost everybody else. Okay, and then you're going to have things breaking down. You're going to have a lot of bad things happening. So I just think that when these thought leaders get together, they need to take a comprehensive look at everything, a comprehensive look at the entire equation, and not just focus on this part here that we're trying to emphasize. And don't be apologetic about it. Okay. Ray Alexander says, what I'm concerned about is that certain men in the society seemed to be replaced while foreign men are brought in as replacements, which men are most impacted by economic changes. T. Riddler, I don't know what you're talking about. He says, Doc, you've been grinning kind of hard. Must have been a good night recently. If you're talking about me and Charles hanging out, it was a late night, but no, it was cool. It was cool. Yeah. Time as men to talk and commiserate. That's important. And then the other thing, yeah, if you go back to my conversation with Dr. Tiesan Johnson, some of the conversations online can be a little bit caustic. They can be a little bit rough. I don't think everything is meant for everybody to hear, but there are voices out there that can communicate the information in a less caustic way. But I don't think everything is meant for everybody to hear, in my opinion. Okay, but everybody, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I think it was good that they at least tried to have that conversation, but I think it's important to remember that it was the online voices that forced it. They didn't just have that conversation at Aspen Ideas just because. Their hand was to some degree forced based upon what's unfolding around everybody. And a lot of people are looking at this, not just the online voices, people on the outside at the Aspen Institute, at the American Enterprise Institute, at the Hoover Institute, Capitol Hill. They see what's going on. They see what's going on. Reynolds says, so instead of reaching out to the top online creators for input, they talk amongst themselves. Correct, Doc. They don't care about the what or the why, but they are listening and observing for sure. I mean, there are other authors. Dr. T.S. Johnson is not the only author from cyberspace. Dr. Warren Farrell, he's written books on this. A lot of people have addressed this. Paul Wilson says, the American infrastructure is breaking down anyway. Our so-called leaders are more to blame than men in general. I wouldn't disagree with that. Barry Little says, Ray Alexander, the 18-point Black Male Agenda by Dr. T.S. Johnson, PhD, and the 38,000 members of the Brotherhood of the Honest Report. Okay, I don't. Yeah, you have a wrench, Barry. So that's a live link. All right. Does anyone else have anything to say about this? Okay. I know the conversations online are shocking to some people. Yeah. Black Nerd Talks. Thank you, Dr. Tommy J. Curry. The Man Not. A book, if recommended, every Black man. A book, I think that means I recommend every Black man to read. Yeah, I mean, I know for some people, the conversations online are very shocking. They can be very, oh my God, I can't believe they just said that. I can't believe they're talking about that. You know, my best friend when I was doing panels, I remember one time my best friend said, Anwar's online talking with a bunch of hurt men. There are a lot of judgments about the online spaces, but there is good being done here. And to truly fix the problems we're seeing, it's going to require listening to some things that you don't want to hear or that you don't know exist. Some people don't know that these things are going on, which is the other importance of these online spaces. People don't know. And Dr. Johnson raised a lot of good questions in his streams. I have to listen to part 2. Gabe A. All right, we have Michigan in the house. Salchi says they're using shaming tactics in an attempt to motivate males. Gabe A says, sup, man? Okay, you guys take it easy on Gabe A. Very Little says, never forget the people at that conference were chose because they are the least likely to address the issues. The truth is never popular. Yeah, so at a lot of everybody, don't forget to like the stream. Yeah, at a lot of these types of events, you have the popular speakers and their future politicians, current politicians, and they're there to present certain things and certain messages. Not always the entire story. Reynolds says they can also look at 2 competent attorneys in the space, Dennis Burley and the lead attorney for the what and the why. That's right. Those are two professionals. All right, everyone. It's almost 8:00, and I don't want to eat too late, and I have some other things to do. But thank you for listening to me talk about this again. And I just had a few minor points, but I think the takeaway is if some of these things don't get properly addressed, what are the long-term ramifications for everybody? Okay, what are the long-term ramifications for the group, for everybody? All right, everyone. This is Big Discussions 76. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. Please like, share, and subscribe, especially if you are new. If you want to donate something to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box. You can also leave a super thanks. And please consider joining my newsletter. I'm trying to wrap my book up, so I didn't get a chance to send my newsletter out, but the link is here. It's in the description box as well. For the readers, Diamond Dave says there are not a lot of readers here in the YouTube streets. So, oh boy, that's a long link. That's the wrong link. I don't know why that's doing that. But everybody, this link is below in the description box. I don't know why this keeps pulling up that YouTube link. Copy this one. Copy hyperlink. Okay. I'm going to quit this in a minute. Okay, forget that. The link to my newsletter is in the description box. Gabe A, thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate it. When I come see my Maize and Blue play this year, we got to link up and have lunch or something. Barry Little says, thank you for the broadcast. Dr. Dunbar, peace, everyone, and good night. Yeah, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. Yeah, look out for the next one. Hopefully the next one will be an interview with somebody. And yeah, so with that, as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Yeah, guys, it matters. It matters. You know, having been a boy myself, when you grow into being a man, there are things that are expected of you. And I will credit Wes Moore. He did say this: if you're figuring things out on your own and no one's there to teach you, you're still expected to know those things later on. So, important discussion. It just needs to be complete. All right, everyone. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.